Have you ever hit a shot that felt completely effortless? Like the ball just exploded off the racket without you even trying? But the next shot was wobbly, weak, and frustrating. You gripped the racket tighter, you swung harder, and it just got worse. Here's the secret. It's just not about strength. It's about mastering what I call the power sandwich formula. It's the exact way the pros use their racket to create effortless power and control. Stick around and I'll show you how pros like Djokovic, Alcaraz, and Sinner do it. And you can do it too with just 3 simple drills. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you the secret sweet spot because there's more than one sweet spot on your racket. All right, let me show you 3 things that the pros do that most players completely overlook. These are the key things happening at the moment of contact. First of all, you have the sweet spot, hitting the exact part of the strings that store and release the most energy. Next thing, you have elastic energy transfer. Both the strings and the ball compress like a spring and load up and then snap back. Finally, you have racket acceleration. The pros aren't swinging fast the entire time. They're accelerating the racket right at contact. Now that you know what to look for, let's see if you can spot it.
Watch Alcaraz. See how the ball hits the sweet spot. That's why his shots look clean and powerful. It's because when he swings, he achieves the sweet spot of the racket, which releases elastic energy into the ball. Now let's look at Djokovic on the run. When you look closely, he's accelerating right before contact, and the ball pops off the strings even when he's stretched wide. Here's Nadal. See how the ball flattens out against the string? That's elastic energy being stored and then released, what I call the power sandwich. And here's Sinner. The perfect sweet spot and perfect acceleration. The same formula every time. Did you catch all 3?
Sweet spot, elastic energy, and acceleration. These are some of the secrets to effortless power. But what you don't need is necessarily pro level skills to do it. You just need to know how to practice it. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Now let's talk about why this works. When the ball hits the sweet spot, the strings compress like a spring and store elastic energy. At the same time, the ball itself flattens and stores even more energy. Hitting the sweet spot maximizes your energy return. Off-center hits leak energy and create vibration where you don't get the same amount of power. And here's the kicker. It works best when you're accelerating through contact. When you accelerate at the moment of impact, you are the most precise and powerful. One of the most common mistakes, swinging hard and inconsistent at contact, leaves where you don't hit consistent contact in the right spot on the strings, leading to inconsistent power and no control. After, by having proper technique, making sure you accelerate at the point of contact with clean contact, hitting the sweet spot, your acceleration goes to effortless power and control. Most coaches tell you to swing faster, but the real key is to swing smooth, then accelerate right at contact. That's where the magic happens. Now let's break this down so you can start hitting like the pros.
Welcome to the drills. Now we're gonna work on getting you to have that same feel as the pros. The very first exercise we need to do is make sure we hit the sweet spot of the racket consistently. So this is when you hear your pros telling you watch the ball, but they're not finishing the sentence. Watch the ball hit the sweet spot. So simply, I want you to feel the difference. When I hit the ball in the middle, I feel very little vibration and the ball really comes off the racket nice and smooth. If I hit it on the corners, I start to feel a lot of wobble, a lot of vibration, and I don't get the same amount of power. Go ahead and try this and feel the difference. From here, find a wall or anything you can just hit against. And all you're trying to do is really watch the ball hit the sweet spot so we can consistently move and just hit the sweet spot. I don't even care what grip you have or what you're doing with it. Just watching the ball hitting the sweet spot is the key to start the first part of making sure when we hit the ball, we get that right spot on the racket. The second drill we're gonna work on is accelerating, making sure we accelerate at the right moment. Now here's the problem. Most players are trying to accelerate completely from the start. But even there, when I want to start accelerating fast, I have to slow down as I get close to the ball to line it up. This is the biggest problem because if I do this, I'm not going to be consistent and have power. Compared to if I wait and then accelerate when I get the racket close to the ball, you can see how I still get a ton of power, but then I'm accurate because I'm hitting the right spot on the ball, aka watching the ball hit the sweet spot. So here's what I want you to do. Practice on a wall or a ball machine, focusing on just accelerating a little bit before contact. You can just drop it and accelerate right at contact. Notice how I'm getting the racket really close and accelerating right at contact. And this gives me the ability to have control and power compared to if I just accelerated, I have power but zero control. The last drill is really simply putting everything together. So we've been talking about the sweet spot and we've been talking about acceleration. Now what you can do is either use some tape or a pen to create a mark in the center where your sweet spot is. In general, if you think about from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock and run a line under here, this is approximately where the sweet spot is for most rackets. It will vary for some rackets, but what I'm gonna use here is just a piece of painter's tape, and I'm gonna stick it on that spot. And so what that represents is my sweet spot. And this gives you a great practice element where you get some feedback on where on the ball or where on the racket you're hitting. This is our aligning what we're talking about, making sure that we're hitting the sweet spot so we get both the compression of the ball and the stretching of the strings, which gets great energy transfer, AKA power, and then we're working on that acceleration right at contact. So now with it on there, whenever I hit the tape, you're gonna feel a sensation from the tape, making sure I'm hitting in the right spot. And I can already hear and feel the difference. And it's a great drill to do just to make sure you're hitting the right spot, and it gives you some feedback if you're doing it or not.
Now you've seen how the pros do it and how you can do it too. But watching won't change your game, practicing will. Do you want to start mastering your contact and hitting a much better ball? Then get my Master the Contact Shortcut course that's broken up into 3 videos that gives you the most important ideas to start having a better contact. Because yes, you can have perfect looking like stroke production, but if you don't get contact right, the ball's not going to go in, which means you're not going to win more matches. Here we go. Like I promised you to talk about the secret sweet spot. Now, when we think about the racket, we want to think about the handle coming all the way up, and this is generally the sweet spot. But we talked about generally in the middle, which is where when we talk about sweet spot, we mean that you're going to get the most elastic energy from the racket and the strings. Now, here's the thing though, you also get very little vibration. This is going to feel the best, but it's not the most powerful. Now, your racket is basically a tool and a lever, and the longer the lever, the more power you're going to get. So as you move up to this position here, guess what? You get actually more power, but it doesn't feel as good. I'm going to reference this book, but it's The Physics of Tennis, where they talk about if you go from, I think it's 10 to 2 and have this teardrop, right around here is where you're going to get the most amount of power. And then here it's going to feel more comfortable. And so that's how, if you want to get even more power, you can use the sweet spot that's a little bit higher, but at a cost, because it's not going to feel as good. Where if you hit it in the center here, it's going to feel great. Now, the other thing you probably will see when you see pros is when they might hit in a location and then the ball slides. So like if you watch or notice my racket here, it's got broken strings, but it's not broken in the center, because generally if I hit the ball here, and let's say I'm hitting a backhand and it comes up, the ball's going to slide, and that's where a lot of times the string breaks. Very rarely do I break a string in the middle, because when the ball depresses, it moves and then comes off the racket. It's not an instant thing because it's being absorbed. So now you know where the extra sweet spot you can use to get more power is. It's slightly higher, where the strings can still be stretched. Compared to up here, it's not going to be able to be stretched because it's so high, but right around here where it could be stretched where my thumb is, but then this one's going to feel much better. So make sure you take that in consideration when you think about the sweet spot. So which part of the power sandwich are you going to work on first? Contact or acceleration? Drop it in the comments below.